Well, Michael, I'm glad to be with you here
Thanks,
in
Tim.
Jerusalem, looking out over the rooftops
We
of
just
this
happened
city.
to run into each other in Jerusalem.
Yeah,
Not bad.
it's
huh?
great. And it's Christmas time, and we're ramping up a whole lot of activity for Bible Journey, taping around the countryside. And I know you have a long history here. We were especially interested in you talking about the history you have with the Bible and why probably, without any dispute, everybody would say you've probably written more songs about the Bible, about Scripture, from beginning to end than any other Christian musician. So,
Well, I'll take that. That's pretty
yeah,
cool.
more than 150 psalms, attributed to the psalmists in the Bible. So, can you tell us how that all began?
Yeah, well, it all began with a guy from Gordon. His name was William Lane. He had just come to Western Kentucky University, where I was a forestry and wildlife management major. I was hoping to have a job that wouldn't involve people. Okay, but I was a believer. I had come through the Jesus movement, and that whole thing was happening. Loved the Bible, and ran into this phenomenal professor from Harvard who spoke 16 languages and taught the Bible from memory. And I just remember sitting in the back of the classroom and saying, I want to be him. I want to be that guy. And at one point, after we became friends, he said, I think you have gifts for music. I go, really? He said, here's my sermon. Write us a song for next week.
Had he heard you play or anything?
I
before?
played, but not Christian. I didn't. But he had this uncanny ability to see people and sort of engage. And I wish I could say, I heard God speak and I'm deeply spiritual and I responded in obedience. But I basically just wanted to please Bill. So I wrote songs for him for probably 4 or 5 years. And our friendship went until the day he died. I was holding his hand when he died. So I am here because of a guy from Gordon who poured his life into me.
And he was asking you to write songs about Scripture.
Right. Well,
Specific ones for sermons.
That was his content, and frankly, that was all I was really interested in at that point. I mean, I was a Bible super freak. People don't remember so much the Jesus movement, and I don't want to just say, oh, I wish the old good old days would come back, because I think better days are coming than those days. But it was a time when people were just having this unbelievable encounter with hunger for the Word. When I was in high school, I went to 13 Bible studies a week. I mean, I was a Bible freak.
Well, the Christian music market, is not necessarily begging for scriptural music, right?
No,
I mean,
no.
I think the kind of key phrases are uplifting, encouraging, and a lot of praise and worship music.
And commercial, and can we sell it? And yeah.
Right, but
Yeah.
I mean, you've actually had a mission to go through the whole Bible and create a canon of biblical music for every part of the Bible that we want to really expose people to in Bible Journey.
Which I hope someday will be a good thing, because really up to now, and this is 35 years, up till now, God has given me the ability to keep doing what I'm doing. I'm grateful for that. But yeah, when you say, ooh, here's my favorite story. I do an album on the book of Hebrews. Okay, the president of the record company says, is there any way we can not let people know this is on Hebrews? Because people don't like Hebrews. So that's been my experience. So I think someday, hopefully, somebody will say, oh, wow, here's an album on Luke, here's an album on Mark, ooh, here's an album on Paul, here's the law, the prophets, the writings. So hopefully, maybe you can help me out with that. So.
Well, I want to, because because we really believe that music and all kinds of art, including visual art, is a form of biblical interpretation.
Yes.
And when people study the Bible, we say go in the text, go behind the text, and we got great stuff behind the text. But in front of the text are people who are receiving the Bible.
Yes.
And making music with it is a form of interpretation. So have you've studied hermeneutics? You've gone to seminary.
Well, I didn't go to seminary. I was a secular university, but I did biblical studies there.
Okay.
Yeah.
But to what extent is writing music for you a kind of biblical interpretation?
Yeah, that's a great question. Bill had this image he used all the time. He said, if I have a C tuning fork and I bang it on this table and I hold it next to another C tuning fork, it will begin to resonate even though it hasn't been struck.
We talk about literary context and we talk about cultural context.
Sure.
But our own context is the one place where you have the legitimate invitation to take your own imagination seriously if you've done your homework, right?
Yes.
And so you have imagination tours,
Yeah.
and you're a big advocate for creativity and imagination, but it's not as though you're letting the Bible just be a launching place for a motif or some kind of a cipher to go off, but
No, it's the point.
deeply grounded in the Bible.
Yeah.
So that sounds a lot like good biblical interpretation. In fact, even resonance sounds like meditation. When there's this kind of tuning fork dynamic going on, I'm inside hearing the word, and then it starts to activate
Well,
something.
it's a nice metaphor for trying to understand. I mean, how does Jesus teach? He goes, well, this is like that.
Right.
And you go, like planting seeds. Oh, okay, I get that. Oh, like two tuning forks. Oh, yeah. And the lights come on. But it's like you said, we don't talk about just, use your imagination, let's pool our ignorance and imagine what this must have been like. We use the term informed imagination. Mm-hmm. You owe it to the Lord to do your homework first. And the great news is there are all these scholars who have done our homework for us, which I appreciate. Good, faithful men and women who are biblical, the Craig Keeners of this world, and the Don Carsons and the Bill Lanes. The older I get, the more I appreciate those people. Yeah.